Hi everyone, welcome. So this video is about the Anthropology Mains paper of 2023. Now there is no doubt that paper 2 was pretty straightforward except for one or two questions which were slightly offbeat, which I'll anyways discuss. Paper 2 was pretty straightforward. Paper 1, people have mixed reactions, and rightly so, because usually 95% of the questions are repeated, and there are no unknown questions, so to speak. But in paper 1 this time, in short notes, couple of questions, and even in 20 markers, two or three questions were slightly offbeat. But still, if you had made a good combination of choices, it would have still been possible to pick the best questions for writing the answer. I am not going to explain all the questions because many of them are straightforward questions. Scope and relevance of cultural anthropology, cultural impact of Iron Age, race and ethnicity, customary laws and environmental conservation. Gene expression is one topic which comes as part of genetics and cell, replication and transcription and translocation and all. I'll just briefly discuss that. Tuang baby, we will discuss, but otherwise Paleolithic environment with what is available in the Indian subcontinent. So that is something which for India Paleolithic period is something which is covered in chapter 1 or unit 1 of paper 2 that can be clubbed along with the Paleolithic of the entire world. Now malnutrition specifically for protein calorie malnutrition. Here you can bring out parts of your science for general studies, kwashiorkor and other deficiencies which are protein deficiencies can be brought as part of this answer. And Clifford Geertz hominization process, and because of human evolution, what are the major trends that happen, role of marriage regulations in traditional societies in India, what are the prescriptive rules, proscriptive rules, preferential rules, along with the case studies, right? Personal identification, major Mesolithic sites, and describe special significance to India, the Mesolithic sites, Bhimbetka and other places, and various other sites. So this was actually straightforward, more or less. Section B was the slightly trickier part, polygenic inheritance. Rakhi Garhi, which is a Haryana based site, which was recently in the news, and that could have been the reason for picking up this. Glutochronology, which is an outdated technique for understanding the deviation in linguistic branches or linguistic trees, slightly outdated, but still asked as a question, that too as a short note, right? Whereas cultural lag, menopausal symptoms, that is okay. Margaret Mead, Malinowski, impact of globalization on indigenous environments, practical applications of DNA technology. Describe various methods of qualitative data analysis. That is something which people can easily answer. But highlight some popular computer software. Now, this was the real googly, apart from glutochronology, which which was an outdated technique, which is not used popularly, and which many people may not cover. Similarly, computer software was one slightly unexpected kind of question. Whereas the other two questions are straightforward. See, this is the most challenging part of section B of paper 1 this time. If you look at it, these two questions are so straightforward. Genetic equilibrium and what are the factors required for genetic equilibrium and the analysis of that. National character study, which is what Margaret Mead and others did, what is, in Japan and other national character study, and elucidate the contemporary relevance of such studies in understanding, populations of countries or populations of societies. Straightforward. Same way in question number 8, structural abnormalities, straightforward. A.L. Krober's contribution to kinship studies, that the kinship terminology, the factors determining the 8 factors which determine the kinship terminology of Krober. That's a straightforward answer, but the 20 marker was a slightly unexpected, Arjun Appadurai's contribution, right? So that is why this section B of paper 1 was definitely tough this time. I wouldn't want to mince my words and say that, it was, you could have picked up this question to be on the safe side, right? And short note. So you could have still managed it, but this was an unexpected level of difficulty, you can say, in 220 markers, which were slightly complicated, right? But paper 2 was, you know, straightforward. Almost all the questions were straightforward, except for, specifically, even prehistoric rock arts of Uttarakhand is not so difficult. But I would have just discussed it about briefly in the notes that I have made. One slightly, uh, you know, neogene fossil primates. Again, see, Sivalix. Ultimately, it is about Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus, and other findings. But yeah, this was one specific question: hydroelectric river dam project, right? Polavaram and Theri Dam project are the famously known projects. But it is a 15 marker, so you'll have to elaborate it a bit more. But you can give some examples and bring out. So paper 2 was very straightforward, not difficult at all straight questions mostly. Paper 1, section A was okay, pretty straight questions. Section B had these couple of Raki Garhi and glottochronology in the short note, and 220 markers, which were, one part of 20 marker was okay, but the computer software was something which was new to everybody, including me, who trains, because I'll have to be honest, that is something which was out of the blue. And Arjun Appadurai's contribution again was something which was unexpected, right? So, but having said that, it would have been the same for all the aspirants. So, the people who have written the exam, don't lose heart. You will still have a fair chance if you have attended all the other questions well. And people who are preparing for next year, don't get disillusioned or disheartened. Array, anthropology, all repetitive questions. Why these 3-4 questions? As I always keep saying, there will be some googlies in all papers, including anthropology, but it's a continuous effort, right? And we'll have to up our game every year to ensure that we are well prepared for it. So now, with respect to the questions where I feel people may not have sufficient content, especially people who are preparing for the next year. Some of these areas which were asked and what are the significance of it, I'll briefly discuss. There is a detailed note which is given here. This will be, this Anthropology, Anthro Mains 2023, this PDF will be available in the description of this video. So everybody can download it and have a look at it. I'm just going to briefly summarize the key points relating to these questions, for which, which are offbeat and for which people may be looking for some content. So what is gene expression? It is the process by which the information encoded in a gene is turned into a function. The gene is nothing but, the encoding which happens in the DNA. How does it turn into a functional trait? That is gene expression. And for that, first is the transcription, where the first step is a specific segment of DNA is copied into a complementary mRNA, right, which is the messenger RNA. And then the translation, where the mRNA is used to build a specific protein. And then gene regulation happens based on the function that it is supposed to perform. So what is the significance of gene expression? It is essential for the growth, development and functioning of all living organisms. And it's a fundamental role in the characteristics and functions of all cells. And in anthropology, it helps in understanding human evolution, adaptation, etc., and insights into complex interplay between genetics and culture and environment. Then Tuang baby is actually the Australopithecus africanus. It's a 3-year-old, fossil which was found, right? And it helped in understanding a lot of things. It had both human-like features and ape-like features, but the foramen magnum was more anteriorly placed, not posterior, but anteriorly placed, which reflected that yes, bipedalism would have evolved. It actually dispelled the notion, the idea that enlargement of the brain would have happened before bipedalism. But now it is a well settled principle. But that bipedalism would have started maybe 5 million years ago. There is a recent fossilary evidence from Germany which dates it back to even 10 million years ago. So bipedalism is what would have happened first, and then encephalization of brain. That is the significance of the Tuang baby discovery. The characteristics and other points are available in this document. Protein, calorie, malnutrition, what is affected, stunting, wasting, underweight, all those things you will describe in the first part of the answer, right? And what is protein calorie malnutrition? It is because of inadequate dietary intake. And kwashiorkor, which is a protein related deficiency and malnutrition disease, and marasmus, and what are the effects of it. No, so this point, you know, deficiencies, vitamin deficiency, protein deficiency, mineral deficiency, those things you would be covering as part of your GS science also, right? So those things can be used for answering this second part of this question. Polygenic inheritance is a type of non-Mendelian inheritance pattern, and it is controlled by multiple genes. So, multiple genes and alleles determine the phenotype or expression of a trait. That is what is polygenic inheritance. It exhibits a continuous range of variation. Each additional allele contributes incrementally. And what are the examples of such polygenic inheritance? Height, eye color, skin color, intelligence. There are various genes, so it is not one genetic material or one allele which is responsible for these traits. There are multiple genes, and environment also to some extent may play a role. But more importantly, different alleles play different role in this expression of the phenotype, and that is what is polygenic inheritance, and it is helpful in multifactorial hypothesis by Fisher, right? So that is the polygenic inheritance. Prehistoric significance of Raki Garhi. So this is a place in Hisar district of Haryana related to the Indus Valley civilization, right? It provided valuable insights about urban planning, architecture, daily life of Indus Valley people, cultural and artistic discoveries, trade and economy, agriculture and irrigation, right? And the chronological significance. Raki Garhi archaeological findings have helped establish the chronology of the Indus Valley civilization and its interaction with the neighboring regions. So that is the significance of Raki Garhi findings, right? Glottochronology. So Raki Garhi again guys is not a very famous site. Even in any standard textbook you will find it as one of the sites of Indus Valley civilization, right? Not like Lothal or Meherganj and various other places which are very famous, in present day Pakistan or in Gujarat or in Rajasthan and all that. So this is a lesser known site, but it was recently in the news. I remember reading it somewhere about some excavation that is happening and all, and that could have been the trigger for this question, right? Glottochronology was definitely an unexpected question because it's an outdated technique. People don't use these technique. Linguists don't use this technique much anymore, right? So it is used in linguistics to estimate the time when two languages or dialects diverge from a common ancestral language, right? So how from, let's say, the Tamil, Telugu or Kannada and Malayalam would have diverged. How from Sanskrit or other, the other North Indian languages, right, which are primarily based on Sanskrit, would have diverged, right? So just a simple example, more for tribal languages and others, right, where what is the rate of divergence? So it assumes a fixed rate of, a constant rate over time, how it undergoes a change. So in fact, it assumes that it will be 14% over 1,000 years of the Swadesh list words. What are Swadesh list words? Standardized list of basic vocabulary items. And what are these basic vocabulary items? Body parts, numbers, natural features like mountain, river, sky, sea, ocean, common verbs, right? Run, walk, eat, yeah, pronouns, he, she, him, they, us. So these common terms, how they diverge it assumes a rate of 14% divergence, which will be replaced with some new words, replaced with some other words or completely new words when the languages diverge. And it assumes that this divergence happens at the rate of 14% over a 1,000-year period, right? And by using the percentage of shared cognates and estimated rate of lexical change, linguists can estimate when two languages began to diverge. What is the level of difference? And assuming this proportion, how far back they were common and when they started to diverge. But what are the limitations? The assumption of constant rate of change has been challenged because the rate of change itself may vary according to the cultural, social, and historical factors. It's rough estimates, and its relevance is in study of history, migrations, interactions, and all that. But it has fallen out of favor with contemporary linguists, and researchers tend to rely on more sophisticated methods, including computational and phylogenetic approaches for reconstructing language histories. Then computer software used in qualitative analysis. So qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, all that as part of your analysis and reporting, right? Longitudinal study, mixed longitudinal study was also asked this time. So in fact, 2 questions from analysis and reporting. But this computer software was a complete googly, right? Nobody expected, but these are some of the softwares, guys. NVivo, MaxDa, QDA Miner, Quirkos, Weft QDA. These are all used for qualitative analysis. So I've just summarized it from available sources and I've put it. Arjun Appadurai's contribution, his most important contribution is that of scapes. He identified 5 different scapes, right, to describe cultural flow, flowing from one place to another. World is connected and cultural factors flow from one location to another. That cultural flow is called as scapes. He said ethnoscapes, which is movement of people across borders. Mediascapes, which is flow of information, images, and news. Technoscapes, which is global dissemination of technology. Financescapes, which is flow of capital, investment, and financial transaction. And ideoscapes, which is the movement of ideas, ideologies, and cultural forms. So that is the most important contribution. And he talked about deterritorialization and reterritorialization. What is deterritorialization? Breaking down of traditional geographic boundaries as a result of global cultural flows. So it's not your territory, there is deterritorialization. And then there is reterritorialization, where cultural elements are recontextualized and given meanings, right? So that is localization, hybridization, media and cultural production. These are some additional things, but these are the important things. The 5 scapes that he came up with, and also deterritorialization and deterritorialization. Prehistoric arts of Uttarakhand, Pandava cave arts, cave rock art 2500 to 4000 years old, Lakudiyar rock art, Khanda rock art, Bhimbetka, though Bhimbetka is technically, in Madhya Pradesh, but very close to Uttarakhand border. Darkot rock art. These are the significant rock arts of Uttarakhand. What are, it's about primarily, about late Paleolithic, Mesolithic, primarily, early Neolithic period. It's about paintings on rock surfaces, then depiction of animals, human figures, geometric patterns, etc. Right? That is the the late Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Bhimbetka rock shelters. All these are examples of or significance of Uttarakhand rock paintings. Shivalik deposits on Neogene fossil primates. So this is about primarily it has remains of Cercopithecus, which is old world monkeys, early members of human family, which is hominins, Sivapithecus, Ramapithecus. It gives an insight into primate evolution and also the environmental context in which these have evolved, the primates. And tribal communities and hydroelectric river dam projects. So guys, Polavaram Indrasagar river project in Andhra Pradesh and the Tehri project are quite well known as part of development activities and displacement. So because hydroelectric projects is a development activity and displacement of tribals. These are quite, I'm sure every person who is preparing for anthropology in any standard textbook, in the classes that you attend, these two projects are always discussed. But additionally, Teesta River Dam projects, which is in Sikkim, right, and Bakreshwar project, which is in West Bengal, right? That's thermal power project, but still the rest are all hydroelectric project. Teesta project, Tehri Dam project, and the Polavaram Dam project. And what is the effect of these projects on the displacement, and especially on the women? So that is the, so guys, as I told you in paper 2, it was pretty straightforward. As I told you, even this question, hydroelectric project, if you had chosen that question to answer, because you could have always left it in choice, but even if you were very confident about the other two questions in that and you chose it, you could have still made a decent answer out of this. Shivalik range fossilary fuels, neogen fuels, yeah, it should start with, cercopithecus and, hominins thing, and what is the relevance. But Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus and all is also in the Shivalik range, and that is something which you could have managed. In paper 1, yeah, few questions which were slightly tough and off the cuff, so to speak. But as I told you, that is something which we should always be prepared for. And that is why after discussing overall about the question papers, I discussed these specific questions, which were for which content may be required for the people who are preparing for anthropology. And so I have briefly discussed about each one of these, and this document is also available in the description to this video. All the best. Thanks for watching.